Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back in time, way back, to a quieter era. Imagine, if you will, the gentle rocking motion of a train, the rhythmic clack, clack, clack of the wheels on the tracks, slowly fading as the whistle gives a soft, lingering sigh. You feel the subtle lurch, the slowing of momentum, and then a soft, almost imperceptible halt. The air, for a moment, is perfectly still, broken only by the distant chirping of crickets, a sound that hasn't been swallowed by the hum of electric lights or the rumble of perpetual traffic. This is your arrival. You're not in a bustling metropolis, nor a sleepy hamlet lost to time, but a small American town in the 1920s, a place where the pace of life feels less like a race and more like a gentle, meandering stroll. The scent of damp earth after a recent rain mingles with the faint, sweet smell of honeysuckle from a nearby porch, and perhaps a hint of wood smoke from a chimney already preparing for the evening chill. You stretch, a slow, deliberate movement, feeling the quiet anticipation of settling into a world unburdened by digital notifications or the relentless pressure of hyperconnectivity. You probably won't survive a day here without at least once wondering where the nearest Wi Fi hotspot is, or why everyone keeps looking at you strangely for checking your wrist for a smartwatch that doesn't exist yet. Oh, the horror. But fear not, we're just visiting, easing into a world where connection meant a shared porch swing and news traveled at the speed of a friendly chat over a picket fence. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening in, why not drop your location and local time in the comments? It's always fun to see how far these whispers travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step off the train, feeling the subtle crunch of gravel under your worn leather shoes. The platform is simple, wooden planks weathered by sun and rain, leading to a small, unassuming station house. A lone porter, his cap slightly askew, nods a polite greeting, his movements unhurried. The air here is different, clean and crisp, carrying the scent of cut grass and something vaguely sweet, like drying hay. There's no rush, no jostling crowds, just a handful of other passengers, equally unhurried, gathering their modest luggage. You glance around, taking in the scene. A few horse drawn buggies are parked beside the station, their horses gently swishing their tails, seemingly in no hurry either. A Ford Model T, still a relatively new marvel, putters by on the unpaved road, its engine a gentle cough rather than a roar. This is Harmony Creek, or perhaps Willow Bend, or maybe even Pleasantville, a quintessential small American town of the 1920s. The houses that line the main road, visible from the station, are mostly two-story affairs, painted in muted colors, cream, soft green, pale yellow, with wide, inviting porches that seem to beckon you to sit and stay a while. Window boxes overflow with geraniums and petunias, their vibrant colors a cheerful contrast to the gentle pastels of the homes. The lawns are neatly trimmed, not by a noisy gas-powered mower, but likely by a hand-pushed reel mower, or perhaps even a goat. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of well maintained lawns in small towns truly led to a boom in goat ownership, or if it was simply a more efficient use of available, shall we say, livestock landscaping. One quirky tidbit about this era is that many towns, especially those far from major cities, still relied heavily on well water, even for public use, with communal pumps often serving as informal gathering spots for daily news exchanges. Imagine needing to physically pump your daily water supply, a workout with every glass. You begin to walk, leaving the station behind, feeling the soft dust of the unpaved road beneath your feet. There's a quiet anticipation in the air, a sense of familiarity, even though this place is entirely new to you. It's as if the very atmosphere encourages you to slow down, to breathe deeply, to simply be. The distant laughter of children drifts on the breeze, a sound so clear and uncomplicated. This isn't the roaring 20s you've read about in history books, filled with speakeasies and jazz clubs. This is the other side of the coin, the backbone of America, where life moved at a different, more human pace. As you stroll down what you intuitively know is Main Street, the gentle rhythm of the town begins to envelop you. It's not the bustling, frenetic energy of a modern downtown, but a slow, almost contemplative hum. The street itself is unpaved, a wide ribbon of compacted dirt and gravel, occasionally cut through by shallow ruts from wagon wheels or the narrow tracks of a Model T. Dust motes dance lazily in the shafts of sunlight that filter through the elm trees lining the sidewalks, casting dappled patterns on the wooden storefronts. You notice the absence of flashing neon signs or towering billboards. Instead, hand painted signs, often in charmingly uneven script, announce the wares within. A general store, its wide porch inviting, sits proudly at one end, while a small hardware shop, smelling faintly of oiled metal and sawdust, occupies another. The pace of pedestrian traffic is equally unhurried. Folks don't rush, they saunter. A woman in a simple but neat dress pauses to adjust the brim of her straw hat, exchanging a polite nod with a man passing by, his overalls clean and pressed. Children, perhaps just let out from school, chase a rolling hoop down a side alley, their laughter echoing sweetly in the quiet air. You might spot a dog, a scruffy terrier mix, sprawled contentedly in a patch of sun, occasionally flicking an ear at a buzzing fly. There's a distinct lack of urgency, a refreshing antidote to the constant push and pull of contemporary life. This isn't a town where you're expected to be anywhere in a hurry. The storefronts themselves are a study in understated charm. The barber pole, a red and white spiral, turns slowly outside a narrow shop where you can hear the soft snip of scissors and the low murmur of conversation. The bakery window displays plump, golden loaves of bread and a few delicate pastries, their scent mingling with the crisp air. You might even catch a glimpse of the baker, his apron dusted with flour, pulling another tray from a colossal brick oven. This is where the term mom and pop shop truly takes root, a time when businesses were often family owned, passed down through generations, and deeply embedded in the community's fabric. Mainstream historical fact for you: the rise of these small, independent businesses was a defining characteristic of early 20th century America, offering personalized service and a sense of local identity that larger chains would later challenge. One quirky tidbit: many small towns in the 1920s still had public hitching posts outside businesses, a quaint reminder of the continued reliance on horsepower even as automobiles gained popularity. Imagine tying up your car next to a horse, a truly bizarre sight by today's standards. Historians still argue whether the invention of the automobile truly led to the decline of the small town, or if it merely reshaped how people interacted with them. Was it the car that killed the local shoemaker, or merely offered more options? As you walk, the sounds of the town are soft and organic. The occasional creak of a screen door, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer from a workshop on the outskirts, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. There's a surprising quietude, almost a reverence for the silence, that allows you to hear the subtle nuances of life unfolding around you. You might hear the distant crow of a rooster or the faint bleating of a goat, sounds that remind you of the town's close connection to the surrounding agricultural landscape. It's a sensory experience that grounds you, pulling you away from the abstract noise of the modern world and into the concrete, tangible present of this bygone era. You feel a lightness in your chest, a gentle unwinding, as if the very air here possesses a calming quality. Your stroll inevitably leads you to the heart of any small American town in the 1920s, the general store. It's more than just a place to buy goods. It's the nerve center, the unofficial community bulletin board, and often the warmest spot on a chilly day. As you push open the heavy wooden door, a faint jingle of a bell announces your arrival. The scent that greets you is a comforting mix of freshly ground coffee, dry goods, aged cheese, and perhaps a hint of axle grease from the corner where farming implements are displayed. The light inside is soft, filtered through tall paned windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny, lazy fireflies. The store is a treasure trove of necessities and quiet delights. Shelves, reaching almost to the high tin ceiling, are crammed with an astonishing array of items. On one aisle, bolts of fabric in practical calicos and humble muslins sit beside neatly stacked blankets and towels. Another section holds barrels of flour, sugar, and crackers, scooped out by the proprietor into brown paper bags as needed. You see rows of canned goods, jars of pickled vegetables, and sacks of grains. Hanging from the ceiling are practical items like washboards, tin buckets, and maybe even a coil of rope. It's a microcosm of self sufficiency, a place where you could truly outfit your entire household without ever leaving the town limits. The proprietor, a man with a friendly, worn face and a pencil tucked behind his ear, looks up from behind a sturdy wooden counter. He offers a slow, easy smile, the kind that conveys genuine welcome without a hint of hurry. There's no hard sell here, no aggressive marketing, simply a quiet readiness to assist. You might see him weighing out a portion of dried beans on an old brass scale, its weights clinking softly, or perhaps carefully counting out nails into a small paper cone for a customer. This was a time when transactions were personal, often involving a bit of friendly banter about the weather or the health of a neighbor's prize winning pig. One mainstream historical fact is that the general store served as the primary retail outlet for rural and small town America before the widespread advent of chain stores and supermarkets, often extending credit to local farmers until their harvest came in. A quirky tidbit you might notice is a large, cast iron pot bellied stove sitting in the center of the store, radiating a comforting warmth. Around it, a few wooden chairs invite customers to linger, to warm their hands on a cool morning, or to simply pass the time in quiet conversation. This wasn't just a waiting area, it was an informal town square, a place where news was exchanged, opinions were shared, and community bonds were subtly strengthened. Historians still argue whether the decline of the general store directly correlated with the rise of the automobile, allowing rural residents to travel to larger towns for more diverse goods, or if it was simply a natural evolution of retail economics. Did convenience kill community or merely relocate it? You can almost hear the soft rustle of newspaper pages being turned, the quiet creak of floorboards underfoot, and the low hum of conversation. The pace is unhurried, allowing you to truly absorb the details. The hand drawn advertisements tacked to a corkboard announcing a local barn raising or a church supper, a small glass case displaying penny candies, their vibrant colors a tempting splash in the otherwise muted palette of the store. The faint scent of coal smoke drifting in from the stove. It's a sensory experience that feels both comforting and deeply authentic, a gentle embrace from a time when life's necessities were intertwined with quiet human connection. You imagine the storekeeper knowing every customer by name, perhaps even knowing their family histories and their favorite brands of coffee. As the soft morning light begins to stream through the window of a typical 1920s small town home, you begin to experience the quiet unfolding of morning routines. There's no jarring alarm clock here, no blaring news radio or phone notifications to snatch you abruptly from slumber. Instead, you're gently eased awake by the subtle sounds of the household stirring. Perhaps it's the distant clang of a cast iron pan from the kitchen, or the soft creak of floorboards as someone moves about downstairs. The air is cool, carrying the faint, comforting scent of brewing coffee and wood smoke from the kitchen stove. You might hear the faint splash of water from a wash basin as someone begins their day with a simple ablution. Your bed is likely a sturdy wooden frame, topped with a straw mattress that rustles softly with your movements, covered by hand-stitched quilts that offer warmth and weight. You stretch slowly, feeling the peaceful quiet of the early hour. Dressing is a straightforward affair, practical, durable clothing chosen for comfort and utility. For men, perhaps a pair of sturdy overalls or simple trousers and a chambray shirt. For women, a practical house dress, easy to move in, perhaps with an apron tied over it for morning chores. There's no pressure for elaborate fashion statements at this hour, just the quiet dignity of preparing for the day ahead. Downstairs, the kitchen is the hub of activity, though the activity itself is measured and calm. A woman, perhaps the mother or a diligent older daughter, is already at work, her movements efficient and practiced. The stove, likely fueled by wood or coal, would have been lit earlier, its gentle warmth now radiating into the room. This was a mainstream historical fact. Most homes in this era, especially in rural areas, relied on wood or coal burning stoves for cooking and heating, requiring constant attention and effort to maintain. Imagine the dedication involved in simply boiling water for coffee each morning. One quirky tidbit you might notice is the presence of a cooler or ice box, a precursor to the modern refrigerator. A block of ice, delivered by the local iceman, would keep perishable foods cool. The rhythmic drip of melting ice into a pan beneath the icebox would be a constant, subtle background sound. Historians still argue whether the advent of home refrigeration had a greater impact on household routines than indoor plumbing. Did the icebox truly free up more time for leisure, or merely shift one set of chores for another? As you descend the stairs, the aroma of breakfast grows stronger, drawing you towards the kitchen. You might pass through a simple parlor, its furniture covered with dust sheets if it's rarely used, or perhaps a small living area where a family Bible sits prominently on a table. The silence of the house is punctuated by the gentle sounds of domestic life. The clatter of cutlery being set on a sturdy wooden table, the soft sizzle of bacon in a pan, the gurgle of coffee percolating. There's a sense of purpose in these actions, a quiet pride in the self sufficiency of the home. No one is rushing, no one is stressed. The morning simply unfolds as it should, a peaceful prelude to the day. You feel a calming sense of order, a predictable rhythm that contrasts sharply with the frantic starts to modern mornings. It's a moment where time itself seems to slow down, allowing you to fully inhabit the quiet comfort of a bygone era. The aromas from the kitchen now fully envelop you, drawing you to the heart of the home. The breakfast table whispers. This isn't a hurried grab and go affair. It's a deliberate ritual, a slow commencement to the day. The table, likely a sturdy, well worn wooden piece, is set simply but neatly. Perhaps a checkered tablecloth, or simply the polished wood itself, provides the backdrop for thick ceramic plates and sturdy, unadorned cutlery. The sunlight, now brighter, streams through a window, illuminating the steam rising from cups of coffee and the gentle condensation on a pitcher of fresh milk. You sit down, perhaps on a straight backed wooden chair, feeling the solid craftsmanship beneath you. The family gathers, not rushing, but settling in with a quiet ease. There might be a brief blessing, a moment of shared gratitude before the passing of dishes begins. The breakfast itself is hearty and comforting, designed to sustain through a day of physical labor or household chores. Thick cut bacon, sizzled to a perfect crispness, might be passed around, its savory scent mingling with the sweet aroma of pancakes or hot biscuits. A bowl of creamy oatmeal, perhaps with a dollop of butter slowly melting on top, sits ready. Mainstream historical fact. In the 1920s, especially in small towns, breakfast was typically the most substantial meal of the day, reflecting the energy demands of the era's predominantly manual work. Forget your flimsy protein bar. This was fuel. The conversation is low, murmured, almost a gentle hum. It's not about breaking news or urgent deadlines. Instead, it's about the simple, immediate concerns of the day, the weather, the plans for chores, perhaps a soft inquiry about a neighbor's health. You might hear the quiet clink of a fork against a plate, the soft pour of coffee, or the gentle rustle of a newspaper as the patriarch perhaps glances at the headlines. There's a calming absence of digital distractions, no phones buzzing, no screens glowing. Eye contact is direct, smiles are genuine, and listening is a shared act. One quirky tidbit: it wasn't uncommon for families in small towns to have their own chickens, meaning fresh eggs were a staple of almost every breakfast. Imagine stepping outside and gathering your breakfast directly from the source. Now that's farm to table. Historians still argue whether the perceived simplicity of 1920s life was truly less stressful than modern existence, or if different forms of societal pressure merely replaced technological ones. Was the burden of daily chores heavier than the burden of constant connectivity? You savor each bite, the flavors honest and straightforward. The coffee, brewed strong, warms you from the inside out. The biscuits, flaky and tender, practically melt in your mouth. There's a satisfaction in this unpretentious meal, a sense of being truly nourished. The sunlight continues to brighten the room, casting long shadows from the window panes onto the floor. The sounds are minimal: the soft chewing, the occasional low chuckle, the gentle stirring of a spoon in a coffee cup. This peaceful start to the day is a balm, a quiet anchor in a world that, even then, was beginning its slow march towards greater complexity. You feel a deep sense of contentment, a quiet joy in the shared simplicity of this morning meal. With the last crumbs of breakfast cleared, the next gentle rhythm of the day beckons. The schoolhouse's humble charm. You imagine children, perhaps a few still munching on a final piece of toast, gathering their books and perhaps a slate and chalk, preparing for their lessons. For many in a small 1920s American town, the schoolhouse wasn't a sprawling complex, but a single, sturdy building, often made of wood, with a bell tower that seemed to touch the sky. Its windows, large and tall, let in an abundance of natural light, illuminating the worn desks and the blackboard at the front. As you mentally walk towards it, you hear the distant, happy chatter of children's voices, gradually growing louder, mingling with the soft crunch of their shoes on the gravel path. There's no overwhelming noise of yellow buses here. Children walk, often in small groups, sharing stories and laughter, their journeys a simple, unhurried part of their morning. You might even see a few skipping, their bare feet or worn boots kicking up small puffs of dust. This daily walk was not just transportation, it was a transition, a quiet shedding of home life, and a gentle embrace of learning. Inside the schoolhouse, the atmosphere is one of focused calm. A single teacher, often a young woman, presides over a room filled with students of various ages, from eager first graders to more solemn adolescents. This was a mainstream historical fact. The one-room schoolhouse was the dominant form of education in rural and small-town America for generations, with one teacher responsible for instructing all grades simultaneously. Imagine the multitasking. She'd be explaining fractions to one group while another practiced their penmanship, all within earshot of each other. One quirky tidbit you might observe is the presence of a large water pail and a communal dipper, usually near the door. Children would take turns fetching water from a nearby well or pump, a simple chore that was part of the daily routine. You can almost hear the gentle splash of water, the soft clink of the dipper against the pail. Historians still argue whether the one room schoolhouse fostered a stronger sense of community and self reliance among students due to mixed age learning, or if it limited individualized attention and advanced curricula. Did the communal dipper truly foster sharing, or just, well, sharing of germs? The lessons themselves are delivered with a gentle, patient cadence. You hear the teacher's clear voice explaining a history lesson, perhaps about the pioneering spirit or the recent Great War. Later, the scratching sound of chalk on the blackboard as she writes out arithmetic problems. Then, the rhythmic murmur of children reciting multiplication tables in unison, or the soft rustle of pages turning as they read from worn textbooks. There's a certain self discipline required in such an environment, as younger children learn from observing their elders, and older students sometimes assist the younger ones. The air is filled with the quiet energy of young minds at work, a comforting symphony of learning that feels far removed from the digital screens and individualized headsets of today. It's a place where knowledge is passed down with care, and the pursuit of understanding feels like a quiet, communal effort, a fundamental building block of this small, unassuming world. Leaving the gentle hum of the schoolhouse behind, your senses now turn towards the rhythmic cadence of farm life's steady hum. Just beyond the edge of town, the neat rows of houses give way to sprawling fields, their green expanse stretching towards the horizon. You might catch the scent of rich, turned earth, or the sweet aroma of alfalfa drying in the sun. This is where the lifeblood of the small town truly flows, where the cycles of planting and harvest dictate the pace of existence. You walk along a dusty lane bordered by a split rail fence towards a typical family farm. The sounds here are different from the town. The distant, contented lowing of a cow, the soft clucking of hens from a coop, and perhaps the faint whinny of a horse from the barn. There's an innate sense of order, a quiet efficiency in the way everything operates. The farmhouse itself is modest but sturdy, smoke curling gently from its chimney, hinting at a warm hearth within. Outbuildings, a barn, a chicken coop, a pigsty, are arranged with practical purpose, each serving a vital role in the farm's ecosystem. You observe the rhythmic, unhurried work that defines the farmer's day. A man, perhaps the patriarch, might be guiding a plow through a field, the rich soil turning over in neat furrows behind his horse drawn implement. His movements are strong and deliberate, honed by years of practice. There's no mechanical roar of a tractor here, just the soft snort of the horse and the gentle creak of the leather harness. This reliance on animal power was a mainstream historical fact. While tractors were beginning to emerge, most small farms in the 1920s still depended on horses or mules for heavy labor. Imagine the quiet, almost meditative quality of working the land this way, just you, the animals, and the earth. One quirky tidbit you might notice is the presence of a well with a hand pump, its long handle gleaming from constant use. This was the farm's primary source of water, requiring physical effort for every bucket. You can almost feel the cool, refreshing water as it emerges from the earth, a vital resource earned through effort. Historians still argue whether the perceived arduousness of farm life in the 1920s fostered greater resilience and family unity, or if the constant physical demands simply left less room for personal development. Was the bond forged by shared labor stronger than the strain of perpetual toil? As you watch, you feel the profound connection between the people and the land. There's a quiet respect for nature's cycles, a deep understanding of interdependence. The setting sun might begin to cast long shadows across the fields, painting the scene in hues of gold and orange. The air cools, carrying the earthy scent of growing crops. The sounds fade to a peaceful lull, the distant chirping of crickets, the soft rustle of corn stalks in the evening breeze. You feel a deep sense of grounding, a connection to the very roots of existence, as the steady, unhurried hum of farm life gently wraps around you, promising simple sustenance and peaceful slumber. As the sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky with hues of soft orange and pink, the small town turns its attention to afternoon leisure activities. Gone are the structured tasks of morning chores and school lessons. Now, a more relaxed pace settles over everything. You won't find anyone scrolling through social media or binge watching a new series. Instead, leisure is a quieter, more tactile experience, deeply intertwined with the simple rhythms of home and community. Imagine yourself on a wide, shaded front porch, perhaps in a rocking chair that creaks a gentle rhythm with each sway. The air is warm and still, carrying the scent of blooming roses. From a nearby bush, you might be holding a book, its pages soft and yellowed with age, perhaps a classic novel or a collection of poetry. Reading wasn't just a pastime, it was an immersive escape, a quiet journey into other worlds without the distraction of a glowing screen. The only sound is the occasional distant dog bark or the cheerful chirping of cicadas in the late afternoon heat. Mainstream historical fact: without television or widespread radio until later in the decade, reading, especially novels and magazines, was a primary form of entertainment and education in 1920s homes. People actually read things. Can you believe it? Or perhaps you're engaged in a craft. For women, this might involve knitting or crocheting, the soft click of needles, a soothing counterpoint to the quiet afternoon. A quilt, slowly growing block by block, might be draped over a lap, each stitch a testament to patience and artistry. For men, perhaps whittling a piece of wood, the delicate shavings falling to the porch floor, or tending to a small garden, pulling a few weeds with a gentle tug. These were not just hobbies, they were often practical skills that contributed to the household, blurring the lines between leisure and quiet productivity. One quirky tidbit: the popularization of porch swings and rocking chairs in the 1920s led to an informal porch culture where neighbors would often sit outside in the evenings and chat across yards, a quiet form of social networking. Historians still argue whether this era's emphasis on simpler, Often more solitary leisure activities fostered deeper contemplation and creativity, or if it limited exposure to diverse ideas and cultural expressions. Was a good book truly more enriching than a lively debate, or merely a different kind of quiet engagement? You might even see children engaged in their own form of quiet play, perhaps building a fort from blankets and chairs in the living room, or drawing with crayons on butcher paper spread across the kitchen table. Their imaginations, unprompted by electronic stimulation, spin intricate worlds from simple objects. The sunlight slants lower, casting long, soft shadows across the porch, inviting a sense of peaceful contemplation. There's no rush, no pressure to do anything extraordinary, just the quiet luxury of time passing slowly, allowing for reflection, for simple enjoyment, and for the gentle unwinding of the day. You feel a deep sense of calm, a pleasant laziness that settles in your bones as the quiet contentment of a 1920s afternoon washes over you. As the afternoon shadows lengthen, you find yourself drawn into the gentle hum of community gatherings, peaceful. These aren't the large, boisterous events you might associate with modern festivals or concerts. Instead, they are quieter, more intimate affairs, deeply rooted in shared experience and neighborly connection. Imagine a church picnic unfolding on a sunny Sunday afternoon, or perhaps a modest social evening at the town hall. You arrive at the church grounds, a wide expanse of manicured lawn shaded by ancient oak trees. Families are scattered across the grass on blankets, their laughter soft and warm, mingling with the happy chatter of children. The air is filled with the comforting scent of fried chicken, potato salad, and freshly baked pies carried in wicker baskets. People greet each other with genuine smiles and easy conversation, catching up on news, sharing recipes, or simply enjoying the peaceful company. This kind of gathering was a mainstream historical fact. Church and community picnics were central to social life in small American towns in the 1920s, offering a chance for collective recreation and strengthening communal bonds. It was a time to relax and reconnect without the pressure of formal invitations or elaborate planning. Children, freed from the confines of school and chores, play simple, timeless games. You might see a group engaged in a quiet game of tag, their squeals of delight echoing softly, or perhaps a few boys meticulously arranging marbles in the dirt. Girls might be gathered in a circle, whispering secrets and braiding wildflowers into crowns. Their entertainment is organic, born from imagination and the open space around them rather than manufactured distractions. One quirky tidbit: it was common for towns to have a community bandstand in the park or town square where local musicians would perform on pleasant evenings. Imagine the soft, slightly off key brass band music drifting through the twilight air, a gentle soundtrack to a leisurely evening. Historians still argue whether the strong communal bonds formed in these small towns fostered a greater sense of belonging and mutual support, or if they sometimes led to social conformity and resistance to outside ideas. Did everyone truly get along, or was there always a polite, quiet tension simmering beneath the surface? As the sun dips lower, casting a golden glow over the scene, The conversations grow softer, more reflective. People gather in smaller clusters, their voices a low murmur, sharing stories and quiet confidences. There's a tangible sense of peace, a feeling of being part of something larger than oneself, yet intimately connected. The gentle clinking of silverware on plates, the occasional pop of a lemonade bottle, and the ever present hum of cicadas create a soothing ambient soundscape. You feel a deep contentment settling over you, a quiet joy in the shared simplicity and warmth of these peaceful community gatherings, a truly pleasant way to ease into the evening. As dusk begins to settle over the small town, casting long, soft shadows, your senses are drawn towards the comforting anticipation of dinner preparations slow. The air, which earlier held the scent of cut grass and sun warmed earth, now carries the delightful aromas of home cooking, wafting gently from open kitchen windows. This isn't a world of instant meals or microwave dinners. Every evening meal is a thoughtful, deliberate act of creation, a cornerstone of daily life. Imagine yourself standing near a farmhouse kitchen, or perhaps peeking into a town dwelling. You might hear the gentle thump, thump, thump of a knife on a wooden cutting board as vegetables are diced with practiced ease. The soft sizzle of onions browning in a cast iron skillet, filling the air with their sweet, pungent scent. Perhaps the gentle bubbling of a pot on the stove, a stew or soup simmering slowly, its rich aroma promising warmth and sustenance. The kitchen is the heart of the home at this hour, a warm, inviting space where the day's nourishment is carefully crafted. The cook, likely a woman, moves with a quiet efficiency, her movements unhurried but purposeful. She might be kneading dough for fresh bread, the rhythmic thud as she works it on a floured surface. Or perhaps she's shelling peas into a bowl, the soft plink of each pea dropping a soothing sound. This deliberate pace was a mainstream historical fact. Preparing meals in the 1920s was often a time consuming affair, relying on fresh, seasonal ingredients and basic kitchen tools. There were no shortcuts, just honest labor and the satisfaction of preparing food from scratch. One quirky tidbit you might notice is the presence of a pie safe, a wooden cabinet with perforated tin panels used to store baked goods and keep them cool and safe from pests. Imagine the tempting aroma of a freshly baked apple pie cooling on a rack within its wooden confines, waiting for dinner. Historians still argue whether the emphasis on home cooked meals in this era fostered stronger family bonds, or if the burden of daily food preparation limited opportunities for women to pursue other interests. Was it truly a labor of love, or just labor? The sounds of preparation are interspersed with quiet conversation. Children, perhaps having finished their afternoon play, might drift into the kitchen, drawn by the delicious smells, offering to help with simple tasks like setting the table. The clinking of plates, the soft scrape of a spoon against a bowl, the gentle hum of contentment. These are the sounds of a household winding down, preparing for the shared ritual of the evening meal. You feel a deep, almost primal sense of comfort in these slow preparations. a reminder that sustenance is not just about eating, but about the loving care and time invested in its creation. It's a gentle prelude to the quiet evening, promising warmth, good food, and peaceful contentment. As the last vestiges of daylight fade, the heart of the home often shifts from the kitchen to the living room, drawn by the soft, mesmerizing glow of the evening radio's soft glow. This wasn't the ubiquitous background noise of today. The radio was a marvel, a window to the wider world, and an evening ritual. You imagine settling into a comfortable armchair, perhaps upholstered in a floral pattern, or a sturdy wooden rocking chair. The room is dimly lit by a single floor lamp, casting a warm, inviting pool of light. The radio itself is a piece of furniture, often a console model made of polished wood, its fabric covered speaker a focal point. With a gentle click, the tubes within begin to warm, and then a soft static gives way to a low, crackling voice. This initial crackle, fading into clear reception, was a mainstream historical fact. Early radios, especially crystal sets, required careful tuning and often produced a fair bit of static before a station came in clearly. It was part of the experience, a subtle reminder of the technological wonder in your living room. What drifts through the airwaves? Perhaps it's a calm news broadcast, detailing events from far off cities or even across the ocean, delivered in a measured, reassuring tone. No shouting, no sensationalism, just the quiet dissemination of information. Or maybe it's a gentle, serialized drama, the voices of the actors weaving a story that captures the imagination without the visual distractions of a screen. Later, perhaps, a soothing musical performance, a jazz ensemble playing a soft, melodic tune, or a classical piece that fills the room with harmonious sounds. The music is not meant to be danced to with abandon, but to be listened to, absorbed, and allow the mind to wander. One quirky tidbit: families would often gather around the radio, sometimes in complete silence, listening intently. It was a shared experience, a collective journey into sound, unlike the individualized media consumption of today. Imagine a household where everyone is truly listening to the same thing at the same time without a single person checking their phone. Historians still argue whether the radio truly united American communities by sharing common cultural experiences, or if it inadvertently began the slow erosion of local, face to face storytelling and entertainment. Did the radio foster a sense of national identity, or just a new kind of passive consumption? You feel the quiet pull of the voices and music, a gentle hum that seems to settle the mind. The sounds are not overwhelming, but rather they invite you to lean in, to focus, to let your imagination fill in the gaps. The ambient sounds of the house fade into the background, the soft ticking of a grandfather clock, the gentle warmth from the nearby fireplace, the distant chirping of crickets outside the window. It's a peaceful way to end the day, allowing the sounds to wash over you, preparing your mind for quiet contemplation and eventual slumber. You might even find yourself drifting off right there in the armchair, lulled by the soft glow and gentle cadence of the evening radio. As the radio's soft glow fills the living room, another subtle yet pervasive element of small town life gently unfurls. Town gossip's quiet spread. This isn't the malicious, sensational kind of gossip found in tabloids, but rather the low, murmured exchange of news and stories among neighbors, a fundamental thread in the fabric of community connection. It's how information, both vital and trivial, traveled before the age of instant updates. You imagine a scene: two women leaning over a shared fence, ostensibly admiring a neighbor's prize winning roses, but their voices hushed, their heads slightly tilted. Or perhaps a group of men gathered outside the general store after a day's work, whittling wood and discussing the new family that just moved into the old Miller place down the road. The details are always gentle, never overtly cruel. Did you hear about Mrs. Henderson's new rooster? Fella's got a set of lungs on him. Or, young Billy Jenkins, bless his heart, fell out of the apple tree again. Nothing broken, thank goodness. This oral tradition was a mainstream historical fact. In communities with limited access to newspapers or telephones, word of mouth was the primary means of disseminating local news and maintaining social cohesion. It was the original social network, just slower. The sharing of these snippets isn't about judgment, but about connection, about understanding the pulse of the town. It's how everyone kept track of who was sick, who needed help with a harvest, or who had a new baby. There's a subtle art to it, a polite restraint. You wouldn't blurt out sensitive information. Instead, it would be hinted at, delivered with a sympathetic sigh or a knowing glance. It's a gentle form of social policing, too, ensuring everyone largely adhere to community norms, but it's done with a softness, an understanding that everyone is part of the same small boat. One quirky tidbit: the town's switchboard operator, if the town was large enough to have one, was often an unwitting central hub for local gossip. They'd hear fragments of conversations all day, becoming accidental purveyors of the town's latest happenings. Historians still argue whether this pervasive but quiet gossip truly fostered closer community ties by keeping everyone informed and accountable, or if it created a sense of constant surveillance and pressure to conform. Was it a charming exchange of news, or just a really slow form of reality TV? As you listen, or imagine listening, you feel the gentle hum of human connection, the subtle weaving of individual lives into a collective narrative. The sounds are soft: a whispered comment, a quiet chuckle, the rustle of leaves as someone leans in closer. It's a testament to a time when relationships were built on proximity and shared daily experiences. The light outside the window might be deepening into twilight, making the shadows long and indistinct, mirroring the way these quiet stories subtly fill the spaces between people. This gentle exchange of news helps to gently lull the mind, providing a quiet background hum of human activity, a soothing reminder of simpler social rhythms. Beyond the gentle hum of everyday life, you begin to discern the quiet dedication to local crafts and skills. In a 1920s small American town, self-sufficiency wasn't just a virtue, it was often a necessity. This meant that many residents possessed practical skills and engaged in crafts that not only provided for their families, but also contributed to the local economy in quiet, unassuming ways. Imagine stepping into a small, well ordered workshop behind a home, perhaps permeated with the sweet scent of wood shavings or the earthy aroma of cured leather. You might see a man meticulously carving a wooden toy, his hands calloused but nimble, the soft scrape of his knife against the timber the only sound. Or perhaps he's repairing a broken wagon wheel, the rhythmic thud of his hammer on the iron rim echoing softly. These were not just hobbies, they were essential trades, keeping the town's mechanisms running smoothly. This kind of local craftsmanship was a mainstream historical fact. Before mass production dominated every industry, skilled artisans like blacksmiths, carpenters, and cobblers were indispensable members of small communities. You needed new shoes, you went to the local cobbler. Simple as that. In another home, perhaps, you might witness a woman at a quilting frame, her needle moving in and out with practiced grace, creating intricate patterns from scraps of fabric. The quiet rustle of cloth, the soft snip of scissors, and the rhythmic pull of thread are the only sounds. Or maybe she's canning fruits and vegetables, the gentle plink of jars sealing as the last of summer's bounty is preserved for the leaner months. These domestic crafts, often passed down through generations, were both artistic expression and practical necessity, ensuring comfort and sustenance for the household. One quirky tidbit: many small towns had at least one resident who was exceptionally skilled at something unusual, like repairing intricate clock mechanisms or crafting fishing lures from unlikely materials. These local experts were often highly valued, their unique abilities a quiet source of pride for the community. Historians still argue whether the decline of these localized crafts, brought about by industrialization and mass production, led to a loss of community identity and practical self reliance, or if it simply freed people to pursue different forms of work and leisure. Did convenience truly kill creativity, or just change its canvas? You feel a deep respect for the quiet patience and skill embedded in these activities. The air in these workshops and homes feels solid with purpose, imbued with the focused energy of creation. The sounds are subtle, organic, the soft whir of a spinning wheel, the gentle tapping of a hammer, the satisfying snick of well-sharpened shears. It's a comforting reminder of a time when hands-on work was integral to daily life, when the products used were often made by a neighbor or friend, imbuing them with a personal history and quiet charm. This gentle backdrop of diligent craftsmanship is another soothing layer in the quiet tapestry of the 1920s small town, lulling you into a state of peaceful contemplation. From the quiet workshops and home crafts, your attention is gently drawn to the carefree sounds of children's simple games. In the 1920s small town, without the constant pull of electronic screens, children's play was an imaginative, physical, and deeply social affair, often unfolding outdoors in the golden light of late afternoon. You might hear the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of a rubber ball against the side of a barn, accompanied by the excited shouts of boys playing stickball or catch, or perhaps the soft, sing-song chanting of girls gathered in a circle, their hands clapping in unison for a game of patty cake or jump rope, the rhythmic thwack of the rope against the dusty ground. Their laughter is clear and uncomplicated, a sound that carries far in the quiet air, completely unburdened by the pressures of organized sports or competitive leagues. Mainstream historical fact: traditional, unstructured outdoor play was the norm for children in this era, fostering creativity, problem solving skills, and social development through direct interaction with peers and their environment. There were no participation trophies, just endless hours of fun. You might see them playing hide and seek among the tall corn stalks at the edge of a field, their hushed whispers and quick movements adding a sense of gentle suspense. Or perhaps building a rudimentary fort from fallen branches and old blankets in a nearby patch of woods, their imaginations transforming simple materials into grand castles or pirate ships. Their games are limited only by their creativity and the resources of their immediate surroundings. A stick becomes a sword, a patch of dirt, a whole new world. One quirky tidbit: many games involved old household items repurposed for play, like tin cans for kick the can, or old tires for rolling races down a hill. Imagine the ingenuity required to turn everyday objects into sources of endless entertainment. Historians still argue whether the lack of structured extracurricular activities in this period led to more resilient and independently minded children, or if it limited their exposure to diverse skills and disciplines. Did too much free time lead to more innovation, or just more scraped knees? As you observe, you feel a surge of simple joy, a nostalgia for a time when entertainment was self generated and connection was organic. The sounds are light and airy: the soft scuff of running feet, the excited whispers, the occasional triumphant cheer. The air is still warm from the day, carrying the scent of cut grass and sun baked earth, mingling with the innocent joy of childhood. There's a timeless quality to these games, a purity that resonates even today. These gentle sounds and images of uninhibited play slowly wash over you, pulling you deeper into the tranquil world of the 1920s, a world where joy was found in the simplest of moments, preparing your mind for a deep and peaceful slumber. From the open air joys of childhood, you are drawn to a different kind of gathering, one with a distinct masculine hum: the barbershop's gentle buzz. In a 1920s small town, the barbershop wasn't merely a place for a haircut. It was a quiet sanctuary, a local forum, and a place where news was exchanged among the men of the community. Imagine pushing open a glass paneled door, causing a small bell to jingle softly. The air inside is warm, filled with the clean, sharp scent of shaving cream, witch hazel, and a faint, comforting aroma of stale tobacco smoke. Sunlight streams through the front window, illuminating the polished wooden floor and the row of sturdy plush leather barber chairs, their gleaming chrome accents catching the light. The rhythmic snip, snip, snip of shears is the dominant sound, punctuated by the soft scrape of a razor against a strop, preparing for a close shave. You settle into a vacant chair, its leather still warm from the previous occupant. The barber, a man often with a crisp white coat and nimble fingers, greets you with a familiar nod. He's not just cutting hair, he's a confidant, a storyteller, and a quiet observer of the town's pulse. This informal role was a mainstream historical fact. Barbershops, like general stores, served as crucial social hubs in 1920s small towns, places where men could relax, share opinions, and discuss everything from local politics to the latest baseball scores. It was the original man cave without the big screen TVs. The conversation is low key, meandering, never rushed. You might hear a discussion about the weather and its impact on the crops, or a gentle debate about the merits of a new automobile model versus the reliable horse and buggy. There's a subtle camaraderie, a shared understanding among the men as they sit back and allow themselves to be pampered, even if only for a few minutes. The sound of a warm towel being applied to a face, the soft lathering of soap, the gentle pull of a comb through hair, these are the subtle sensory details that define the experience. One quirky tidbit: many barbershops of this era offered more than just haircuts and shaves. Some might have had a small section dedicated to selling tonics, liniments, or even rudimentary toothache remedies. Imagine getting your hair cut while someone suggests a questionable cure for your aching molar. Historians still argue whether the casual, often unscientific, health advice exchanged in barbershops and other informal settings of the time reflected a stronger sense of self reliance or simply a lack of access to formal medical care. Did the barber truly know best, or was he just guessing? As you sit there, feeling the quiet hum of the electric clippers, a relatively new invention gaining popularity, you absorb the peaceful ambience, the gentle murmurs of conversation, the soft thud of a newspaper being unfolded, and the ever present, soothing sound of the barber's tools create a unique, calming symphony. It's a place of quiet masculinity, a space where time seems to slow down, allowing for moments of reflection and understated connection. This gentle background buzz and the feeling of quiet care are another soothing element, inviting you to relax deeper into the world of the 1920s small town and its unhurried pace. Stepping away from the masculine domain of the barbershop, your attention shifts to another quiet facet of small town social life: the ladies' social circles. In the 1920s, while men gathered at the store or barbershop, women often formed their own networks, nurturing connections and sharing experiences in more intimate, often domestic, settings. These weren't boisterous affairs, but polite interactions, fostering quiet camaraderie and mutual support. Imagine an afternoon bridge club meeting in a sun-drenched parlor, the soft clinking of teacups and the gentle rustle of cards being dealt. Or perhaps a sewing circle where needles flash rhythmically through fabric, accompanied by low, comforting chatter. The air might carry the scent of freshly brewed tea, a faint hint of lavender potpourri, and the sweet aroma of a homemade cake. These gatherings were a mainstream historical fact. Women's clubs, church groups, and informal social visits were vital for building community among women in the 1920s, providing intellectual stimulation, emotional support, and practical assistance. It was their own form of social media, just with actual tea and cake. You picture women in their neat day dresses, their hair perhaps styled in soft waves or a simple bun, sitting comfortably in upholstered chairs or on a patterned sofa. Their conversations would be varied, ranging from discussions about new recipes the latest trends in home decorating, perhaps from a mailed catalog, or the goings on of their children. There's a certain etiquette to these interactions, a polite deference, but also a deep undercurrent of genuine care and friendship. They shared advice, offered encouragement, and sometimes, quietly, lent an ear to personal concerns. One quirky tidbit: it was common for these gatherings to involve the exchange of receipts, recipes, written by hand, often embellished with personal notes or tips. Imagine a handwritten cookbook passed down through generations, each page a testament to shared culinary wisdom. Historians still argue whether the focus on domesticity and local social circles for women in this era limited their broader societal influence, or if it allowed them to cultivate strong, supportive networks that formed the bedrock of community resilience. Did the parlor truly confine them, or did it empower them in unseen ways? As you observe these gentle interactions, you feel a profound sense of connection, a subtle weaving of lives through shared domesticity and quiet companionship. The sounds are soft, the murmured conversation, the gentle laughter, the delicate clink of china, and the rhythmic snip of scissors if it's a sewing circle. The sunlight through the lace curtains casts intricate patterns on the floor, adding to the peaceful ambiance. This quiet hum of polite society, of women connecting on a deeply personal level, provides another soothing layer to the peaceful world of the 1920s small town, inviting you to relax into its gentle rhythms and drift towards sleep. From the polite chatter of the social circles, your senses are now gently drawn to a different kind of sweet indulgence, the ice cream parlor's sweetness. In a 1920s small town, this wasn't just a place for a treat, it was a beacon of simple joy, a cool respite on a warm afternoon, and a hub where all ages could find a moment of delight. Imagine pushing open a screen door, the familiar thwack as it swings shut behind you. The air inside is deliciously cool, carrying the unmistakable scent of vanilla, chocolate, and perhaps a hint of ripe berries. Sunlight streams through tall, unadorned windows, illuminating checkered floors and sturdy round tables with wire-backed chairs. The soft hum of a large, whirring fan in the corner provides a gentle background drone stirring the sweet air. This simple joy was a mainstream historical fact. Ice cream parlors were immensely popular in the 1920s, offering an affordable and accessible form of entertainment and refreshment, especially as refrigeration technology slowly advanced. It was the original Netflix and chill, just with more dairy. You might hear the rhythmic clink clink of metal scoops against hardened ice cream, or the soft pop of a soda being opened at the counter. Children, their eyes wide with anticipation, stand on tiptoes to peer into the glass display case, pointing at colorful tubs of strawberry, pistachio, and the ever popular vanilla. A soda jerk, perhaps a young man with a crisp white apron and a jaunty paper hat, expertly mixes a fizzy concoction, the bubbles rising with a satisfying sizzle. One quirky tidbit: many ice cream parlors of this era made their own ice cream daily, using hand-cranked freezers, leading to unique, often slightly inconsistent, but always fresh flavors. Imagine the pride in knowing your local parlor's particular churn. Historians still argue whether the rise of ice cream parlors contributed to a general shift towards more casual public spaces, or if they merely formalized existing social habits of enjoying sweet treats together. Did the ice cream parlor truly democratize dessert, or just make it more portable? As you settle into a chair, perhaps with a tall glass of perfectly chilled lemonade or a simple scoop of your favorite flavor, you feel a quiet contentment. The sounds are light and cheerful, the soft murmurs of conversation, the occasional burst of childish laughter, the gentle rattle of spoons against glass. There's a timeless innocence to the scene, a simple pleasure that transcends generations. The coolness of the treat on your tongue, the sweet lingering taste, all combine to create a moment of pure, unadulterated relaxation. This gentle symphony of sweetness and simple joy is another soothing layer in the peaceful tapestry of the 1920s small town, inviting you to relax deeper and drift effortlessly towards a sweet slumber. Leaving the pleasant sweetness of the ice cream parlor, your focus drifts to another comforting activity, one that offers a profound escape into different worlds without ever leaving your comfortable chair. The quiet pleasures of reading. In a 1920s small town, especially after a day of honest work or simple leisure, settling down with a good book by lamplight was a cherished, deliberate ritual. Imagine yourself in a dimly lit living room, perhaps by the soft, warm glow of a floor lamp with a fabric shade, or even the flickering light of a gas lamp. You're curled up in a sturdy armchair, perhaps one with a floral pattern, or even stretched out on a worn sofa. The air is still, save for the gentle crackle of a fire in the hearth if it's a cooler evening, and perhaps the distant chirping of crickets from outside. The book in your hands is likely a physical object, its pages soft and yellowed with age, its cover a simple cloth binding. Mainstream historical fact. In the 1920s, with widespread access to libraries and mail order books becoming more common, reading was a primary form of entertainment and self education for many Americans, far surpassing other forms of media consumption. People actually read for pleasure. Can you believe it? You might lose yourself in the sweeping prose of a classic novel, allowing the characters and their dilemmas to unfold in your mind's eye. Or perhaps it's a collection of poetry, each verse a gentle whisper, inviting contemplation. There's no glare from a screen, no notifications to interrupt your concentration. The only sounds are the soft rustle of pages being turned, the quiet shift of your own breathing, and the gentle creak of your chair as you adjust. It's a truly immersive experience, a journey guided by your own imagination, fueled by the words on the page. One quirky tidbit: many small towns had traveling libraries or bookmobiles, often horse drawn wagons filled with books that would make rounds to more isolated areas, bringing the quiet pleasure of reading directly to rural homes. Historians still argue whether the deep engagement fostered by reading a physical book without digital distractions led to a greater capacity for sustained focus and critical thinking, or if the modern, multisensory forms of media offer a broader, albeit shallower, form of knowledge acquisition. Did the quiet page truly foster deeper understanding, or merely a different kind of slow absorption. As you read, you feel a deep sense of calm washing over you, a mental unwinding as your mind is gently transported. The words flow effortlessly, painting vivid pictures within your consciousness. The outside world, with its chores and daily concerns, recedes, replaced by the quiet drama or comforting narratives of the story. The subtle scent of old paper and ink is itself a calming aroma. This serene quietude, the gentle act of absorbing stories and information at your own pace, is another deeply soothing element of 1920s life, preparing your mind for complete relaxation and a peaceful drift into sleep. Moving from the quiet absorption of reading, you begin to appreciate a deeper aspect of the small town existence: community self sufficiency. In the 1920s, especially in these more isolated pockets of America, reliance on external resources was minimal. Towns thrived on their own ingenuity, their own labor, and the mutual support of their inhabitants. Imagine walking past homes where gardens flourish, not just for beauty, but for sustenance. You see neat rows of corn, plump tomatoes, and vibrant green beans tended with care. Folks didn't pop to a supermarket for every meal. Much of their produce came directly from their own backyards or a neighbor's farm. The quiet clinking of jars from a cellar suggests a pantry filled with preserved fruits and vegetables, a testament to foresight and hard work. This was a mainstream historical fact. Home gardening and food preservation were essential skills in the 1920s, ensuring families had enough to eat through all seasons, reducing dependence on purchased goods. It was the original grow your own food movement, minus the fancy documentaries. Beyond food, you notice the subtle ways the town provided for itself. The local blacksmith, remember that distant clang we heard earlier? He's not just a quaint figure, he's essential for repairing farm equipment, shoeing horses, and crafting necessary tools. The general store, as you recall, stocks everything from fabric to hardware, minimizing the need for long journeys to larger cities. Homes are built with local timber, repaired by local hands. There's a quiet pride in this independence, a sense that the community can largely stand on its own 2 feet. One quirky tidbit: some small towns would have a shared community well or pump, or even a communal ice house, where large blocks of ice cut from frozen lakes in winter were stored for use in summer. Imagine needing to trek to a common spot for your daily water or ice, fostering casual daily encounters. Historians still argue whether this high degree of self sufficiency led to stronger, more resilient communities better equipped to handle economic downturns, or if it sometimes fostered insularity and slower adoption of technological advancements. Did independence truly build stronger bonds, or just fewer outside opinions? As you take in these scenes, you feel a profound sense of rootedness and practicality. The sounds are of quiet industry: the gentle rhythmic chopping of firewood, the soft splash of water from a hand pump, the distant lowing of cattle that provide milk and meat. There's a tangible feeling of resourcefulness, a quiet confidence in the ability of the community to sustain itself through effort and collaboration. This peaceful testament to self reliance, to a life lived close to the earth and in harmony with one's neighbors, further deepens your relaxation, pulling you gently into the calm, comforting rhythms of a bygone era. As the week draws to a close, a distinct shift in the town's quiet rhythm becomes apparent, leading you to the soothing chiming of Sunday church bells. In a 1920s small American town, Sunday wasn't just a day off. It was the sacred anchor of the week, a day of rest, reflection, and community gathering centered around faith. Imagine the crisp morning air, perhaps still cool from the night, carrying the distinct scent of freshly cut grass and the faint, sweet smell of blossoming lilacs. Then, a gentle, resonant bong, bong, bong begins to drift across the fields and through the quiet streets. It's the sound of the church bell calling the town to worship, its deep, mellow tones spreading a wave of peaceful solemnity. Families, dressed in their finest but still humble attire, begin to emerge from their homes, walking with a measured pace towards the simple, steeple topped church at the heart of the community. This communal journey was a mainstream historical fact. Church attendance was a central tenet of small town life in the 1920s, providing spiritual guidance, social cohesion, and a regular rhythm to the week. It was less about obligation and more about community. Inside the church, the atmosphere is hushed and reverent. Sunlight filters through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the worn wooden pews. The air is still, perhaps carrying the scent of old wood and beeswax. The sounds are soft, the rustle of hymnals, the low murmur of greetings, and the quiet shuffling of feet as people find their seats. The sermon, delivered by a local pastor, is likely earnest and comforting, focusing on simple virtues, community support, and enduring values. One quirky tidbit: in some extremely rural areas, where formal churches were sparse, services might be held in a local schoolhouse or even a large barn, transforming everyday spaces into places of worship. Imagine a sermon delivered amidst the faint scent of hay and the quiet presence of a few curious barn cats. Historians still argue whether the strong religious adherence in 1920s small towns fostered greater moral cohesion and social stability, or if it sometimes limited individual expression and the embrace of new ideas. Did faith truly unite or just define? As the service progresses, you hear the gentle cadence of hymns being sung, voices rising in a quiet, harmonious chorus that fills the humble sanctuary. The music is simple, heartfelt, a soothing balm for the soul. The quiet rustle of clothing, the soft coughs, and the occasional creak of a wooden pew are the only other sounds. There's a palpable sense of shared purpose, a collective calm that settles over the congregation. This peaceful ritual, the quiet reflection and communal solace of Sunday, provides a profound sense of grounding, a gentle conclusion to one week, and a serene preparation for the next. The soft, distant peal of the receding church bells is the final note, gently lulling you further into the calm, predictable rhythm of the 1920s small town. As the peaceful cadence of Sunday church bells fades, your senses now turn to the subtle delights of seasonal celebrations muted. In a 1920s small American town, holidays and local fairs weren't the commercialized, overwhelming spectacles of today. Instead, they were quiet affairs, marked by simple traditions, homemade decorations, and a profound sense of communal joy that felt more intimate and sincere. Imagine the crisp air of autumn, carrying the scent of burning leaves and ripening apples. A local harvest fair might be underway, not with blaring loudspeakers and flashy rides, but with a gentle energy. You might see a makeshift stage where local musicians play folk tunes on fiddles and banjos, their melodies soft and inviting. Children might be playing simple games like bobbing for apples, their laughter echoing sweetly. Farmers proudly display their plumpest pumpkins and largest ears of corn, a quiet celebration of the land's bounty. This understated approach to celebration was a mainstream historical fact. Community fairs and holiday gatherings in the 1920s were often simple, locally organized events, emphasizing homegrown talent, produce, and traditional pastimes rather than elaborate manufactured entertainment. It was less about dazzling and more about doing. Or picture a 4th of July celebration, not with massive firework displays lighting up the entire sky, but perhaps a gentle parade down Main Street, led by the local fire wagon decorated with patriotic bunting. Children wave small flags, and neighbors gather on porches, exchanging quiet greetings. Later, maybe a few sparklers glow in the twilight, and the distant pop 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 of individual firecrackers provides a gentle soundtrack to the evening. The focus is on shared meals, simple games, and a quiet sense of national pride rather than grandiosity. One quirky tidbit: it was common for communities to hold pie contests or best vegetable competitions at harvest fairs, with judging often done by a panel of local elders. Imagine the serious deliberation over a perfectly crimped pie crust. Historians still argue whether the less commercialized nature of 1920s celebrations fostered a deeper appreciation for the meaning behind holidays, or if it simply reflected a period of economic restraint and limited access to consumer goods. Did simplicity truly enhance joy, or just limit options? As you take in these scenes of gentle celebration, you feel a quiet warmth spreading through you. The sounds are soft, the distant strains of a banjo, the happy shouts of children, the gentle rustle of festive banners in the breeze. There's a palpable sense of genuine connection, a shared history unfolding in these understated moments. This peaceful rhythm of muted seasonal joy is another soothing layer in the tranquil world of the 1920s small town, inviting you to relax deeper and drift effortlessly towards a sweet, nostalgic slumber. From the communal warmth of seasonal celebrations, your journey through the 1920s small town brings you to a quiet, often overlooked hub of connection: the post office's connections. In an era before instant communication, the post office wasn't just a place to send letters. It was a vital lifeline, a center of anticipation, and a subtle reflection of the town's reach into the wider world. Imagine a small, sturdy brick or wooden building, its entrance often adorned with a simple sign announcing U.S. Post Office. As you push open the door, a faint whiff of paper and ink greets you, mingling with the slightly dusty scent of aged wood. The interior is simple: a long counter with a brass grate, a few rows of private mailboxes with tiny glass windows, and perhaps a bench where folks might sit while waiting. The rhythmic thump of a hand stamp pressing down on an envelope, or the soft click of a key turning in a mailbox lock are the most prominent sounds. This daily ritual was a mainstream historical fact. The Postal Service was the primary means of long distance communication in the 1920s, connecting isolated communities and individuals through letters, postcards, and packages. It was the original email, just slower and with a much more satisfying tactile experience. You might see a farmer, his hands calloused, patiently waiting to send a letter to a distant relative, or a young woman eagerly checking her box for a letter from a sweetheart in another town. The postmaster, often a respected figure, moves with a quiet efficiency, sorting mail by hand, his movements precise and practiced. There's a palpable sense of quiet anticipation in the air, a hushed excitement as people wonder what news the mail might bring. One quirky tidbit: some rural post offices also served as a general store or even a barber shop in very small communities, truly embodying the spirit of multifunctional community hubs. Imagine picking up your weekly groceries and your mail at the same counter. Historians still argue whether the slow pace of postal communication in this era led to more thoughtful, deliberate correspondence, or if it simply delayed urgent matters and hindered rapid information exchange. Did waiting truly make the message sweeter or just later? As you observe the quiet interactions, you feel the invisible threads connecting this small town to a world beyond its borders. The faint rustle of paper, the soft murmur of polite conversation, the occasional, almost ceremonial thud of a mailbag being dropped. These are the sounds of communication unfolding at a human pace. The sunlight slants across the worn wooden floor, highlighting dust motes dancing in the air, creating a serene, almost dreamlike atmosphere. This peaceful hub of connection, with its gentle rhythms of anticipation and delivery, further deepens your sense of calm, inviting you to relax completely into the quiet, predictable pulse of the 1920s small town. Leaving the post office with its quiet hum of distant connections, you turn your attention to the simple, homegrown ways the town found amusement in the evenings. Simple Amusements Evening. In the 1920s small town, entertainment wasn't something you bought tickets for at a multiplex. It was something created, shared, and savored within the cozy confines of home or a neighbor's parlor. Imagine a family gathered in their living room after dinner, the dishes washed and put away. The main source of light might be a soft, warm glow from a single electric lamp, or perhaps the mellow flicker of a gas lamp, casting dancing shadows on the walls. There's no glowing screen, no distant drone of a television. Instead, you hear the quiet shuffling of cards as a game of rummy or old maid begins, punctuated by soft chuckles and playful sighs. Or perhaps the rhythmic click clack of dominoes being carefully placed on a wooden table, each move a gentle, deliberate act. This kind of intimate, self generated entertainment was a mainstream historical fact. Parlor games, card games, and simple storytelling were common forms of evening amusement in homes across America, fostering family bonding and social interaction before mass media became dominant. It was the original game night without the competitive arguments over obscure board game rules. You might hear the gentle strumming of a guitar or the soft, melancholic notes of a harmonica as someone plays a familiar tune. Perhaps a family member with a good voice sings along, their voice a soothing murmur in the quiet room. Or a group might gather around a piano, its keys gently pressed, filling the air with simple melodies. Music wasn't just listened to, it was often made in the home, a shared creative expression that brought people closer. One quirky tidbit: families would often take turns reading aloud from books or popular magazines, perhaps a serialized story, creating a communal listening experience. Imagine cliffhangers delivered by your own family members, prompting hushed anticipation for the next installment. Historians still argue whether the prevalence of these self made amusements led to stronger interpersonal relationships and more active imaginations, or if it limited exposure to diverse cultural forms and professional artistic performances. Did the quiet evening truly foster deeper connections, or just fewer distractions? As you observe these scenes, you feel a profound sense of warmth and genuine human connection. The sounds are soft, intimate. The gentle rustle of a playing card, the low murmur of conversation, the quiet plink of a piano key, or the soft, rhythmic strum of a stringed instrument. There's an authentic simplicity, a lack of pretension in these shared moments of joy. The air outside the window might be cool and still, carrying the faint scent of night blooming jasmine, adding to the serene atmosphere. This peaceful tableau of shared, simple amusements is another deeply soothing element of 1920s life, guiding your mind towards complete relaxation and a sweet, untroubled slumber. As the gentle notes of evening amusements fade, the town begins its slow, comforting transition towards rest, bringing you to the quiet rituals of preparing for rest. In the 1920s small town, this wasn't a sudden crash into sleep, but a gradual winding down, a series of simple, predictable actions that signaled the end of the day. Imagine the soft glow of lights being extinguished one by one throughout the house, leaving only the dim, reassuring light of a bedside lamp, or perhaps the faint illumination from a distant street lamp if the town even has one. The air cools, carrying the scent of fresh linens and the lingering aroma of wood smoke from the fireplace, or the sweet smell of blooming night jasmine from outside. You might hear the soft clink of a porcelain basin as someone splashes cool water in their face, a simple ablution before slipping beneath the covers. Mainstream historical fact: without the conveniences of modern plumbing in every home, evening washing rituals were often simpler, involving pitchers and basins, a quiet, deliberate preparation for sleep. It was less about a long shower and more about a quick, refreshing splash. You might hear the gentle creak of wooden stairs as family members ascend to their bedrooms, their footsteps soft and unhurried. The sounds within the house become more muted, the soft rustle of clothing being laid out for the morning, the quiet click of a bedroom door being latched, or the faint hum of a distant fan on a warm night. There's a palpable sense of peace settling over the household, a collective sigh of contentment after a day well spent. One quirky tidbit: some families would hang scented sachets of lavender or dried herbs near their beds, believing they promoted peaceful sleep and kept insects at bay. Imagine drifting off to the calming aroma of homegrown potpourri. Historians still argue whether the less stimulated, more physically demanding lives of the 1920s naturally led to deeper, more restorative sleep, or if the lack of modern sleep science meant people often struggled with their own unique nocturnal challenges. Did the quiet truly guarantee rest, or just fewer distractions to complain about? As you prepare for your own rest in this tranquil setting, you feel your body unwinding, your mind clearing. The sounds are minimal: the soft rustle of sheets, the gentle sigh of the wind outside the window, the distant hoot of an owl. There's no rush, no pressure to analyze the day or plan frantically for tomorrow. Instead, it's a moment of gentle surrender, allowing the peaceful rhythms of the 1920s small town to guide you into a state of deep relaxation. You feel a profound sense of security and comfort as the quiet embrace of night settles over everything, promising a truly restful slumber. Now, as the simple rituals of the 1920s small town fade into memory, a profound quiet descends. You are fully immersed in this tranquil world, having shed the anxieties and demands of your own time. The final, gentle embrace is that of deep sleep descends. The last faint sounds have quieted. The soft, rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock in the hall, perhaps the distant, reassuring hoot of an owl from the ancient oak outside your window, or the gentle sigh of the wind rustling through the leaves. The air in your room is cool and fresh, carrying only the faintest, most comforting scents, perhaps clean linen or the subtle aroma of a blooming night-scented stalk from the garden. There are no buzzing notifications, no glowing screens, no urgent thoughts demanding attention. Your body feels heavy and relaxed, sinking deeper into the soft mattress, the weight of the quilts a comforting presence. Your breathing becomes slow, even, and deep. Each inhale is a gentle wave of calm, each exhale a release of any lingering tension. The images from your journey through the 1920s small town drift softly through your mind: the dusty main street, the quiet general store, the gentle rhythm of the farm, the soothing crackle of the evening radio. They are not sharp or demanding, but soft, faded watercolors, dissolving into the peaceful darkness behind your eyelids. You are completely at ease, suspended in a serene quietude. The feeling of being truly present in this bygone era has completely lulled your senses. You are no longer observing, you are simply being, a part of the quiet, unhurried rhythm of life as it once was. The warmth of the blankets, the gentle pressure of the pillow, the profound silence of the night all conspire to draw you deeper, deeper into pure, unburdened slumber. There is nothing left to do, nowhere left to be, but here, in this perfect, peaceful stillness, you are utterly safe, utterly at peace. The world outside has gone to sleep, and so, too, have you. Every muscle in your body is loose. Every thought in your mind has dissolved. You are drifting, weightless, on a calm, dark sea, carried by the gentle current of rest. The quiet of the 1920s small town surrounds you like a soft, comforting blanket, pulling you down into the deepest, most restorative sleep. Let yourself go.